Okay, so we start in the hypothalamus and pituitary. This is the hypothalamus. Specifically, the anterior pituitary is what we are concerned with here. Okay, then we know that the endocrine organs themselves, which happens to be the thyroid gland, is also involved. Okay, that's the thyroid gland. And then we also know that in the case of the thyroid hormone, there are also some additional target tissues, such as the liver and the kidneys, that are involved here. Okay. So liver, kidney mainly, but then other cells of our body as well. And we'll see why when we look at the function of thyroid hormone. Okay, sorry guys, this is going to be a little difficult. Okay. Okay, so let's start up here in the hypothalamus. The hormone, the first trophic hormone, so trophic hormone 1, is thyrotropin releasing hormone, okay, or TRH. Thyrotropin releasing hormone is going to instruct the anterior pituitary to secrete thyroid stimulating hormone, or TSH, okay. And this is that first chain of command, okay? Now, thyroid stimulating hormone will in turn stimulate the thyroid gland to secrete T3 and T4, right? More T4 is secreted. This is an increase arrow. So T3, T4, more so T4. More T4 is released or created. And then that T3 and T4 will leave the thyroid gland, leave the follicle, which you just saw, enter the bloodstream and make its way to the liver, the kidney, and some of these other target cells. Okay. Now, in doing so, T3 can directly have an impact, and I'm going to put 2 positive arrows here because it's much more potent than T4, okay? T4 has to be converted to T3 in the target tissues. I'm going to just make a note here so that it's super clear. Converted to T3 in target tissue. And the idea here is that T4 is a more stable molecule to travel around the body. It's also more influential on our feedback loops, which I'll talk about in a minute. But then T3 is really where the action is. T3 is the molecule that is really having the effect on our kidneys, liver, and other target cells, okay? So T3 is more potent, but more T4 is made, and then all of that T4 is converted to T3 in the target tissues. Let's talk about the feedback loops that happens here. So the feedback loop starts in the thyroid gland. So it's really important to understand that it doesn't start down here in the target tissue. It starts from the endocrine gland in question. And there are 2 feedback loops. One is that we can feedback onto the anterior pituitary here. Again, this is a negative feedback, so a short loop. Negative feedback. Or we can feedback directly onto the hypothalamus. Okay, and this would be a long loop. Can you see the, oops, I'm sorry. This would be a long loop negative feedback. Okay. I also want to point out here that T4 has more of a role in this, this feedback mechanism. Okay, so the feedback involves more of T4 than T3. I'll make that note here. T4 is more involved in the negative feedback. Okay, that means it has a stronger influence on shutting off the hypothalamus and a stronger influence on shutting off the anterior pituitary. Whereas T3 is more potent on the target cell, on the target tissue. Okay, so I'll leave this up here a little bit. It's kind of hard to see both. So this is how thyroid hormone is regulated. This is how we can dictate how much T3, T4 is made, how much TSH is made, and then how much TRH is made by regulating using these feedback loops, okay? Any questions?